You're funny, Anthony. It's the Huffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Yes, one of the first people to really lean into the NFL's coverage of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift was our friend Ian Eagle, a true Swiftie, who also happens to be the voice of Thursday Night Football on Westwood One, where tomorrow he will be in Landover calling Commanders and Bears from FedEx Field. Hello, Ian. How are you, my friend?
Anthony, I knew you were trouble. I knew it. I knew you were trouble behind the glass.
Right when you walked in?
Right when I walked in, I knew it.
Yeah.
What's up, Hoffman?
What's up, man? How are you? Like, what's give people a little bit of an idea. We've talked about this before just as friends, but like this time of year for you, you're preparing for Nets season on the NBA side and your national work with TNT. You got 2 football games a week. What's this time of year like for you?
Yeah, it's really interesting you would even bring that up today. So it's all about getting ahead. I literally started on a Nets board about 45 minutes ago, just starting to put the skeleton together of preparation and then fill in the blanks as the days go by, the weeks go by. And that means getting ahead last week for Washington, Chicago. I have Baltimore and Pittsburgh on Sunday. So if you're waiting for the day of the game, the day before the game, you are in deep, deep trouble.
Yeah, it's not a good time, but you're highly organized. You've been doing this. You got a system at this point. I've been doing this for long enough. So, Ian, the question that I have been pondering to start the show, I feel like you are very qualified to answer because you have been calling Thursday Night Football for Westwood One for a long time, and that is, who is favored in a Thursday night game because of the short week? Is it typically the more talented team, or is there, because you just kind of line up and play, or is there kind of an evening effect that happens where the less talented team, which in my estimation this week is the Bears, has more of a shot because it is a bit more, for lack of a better word, a crapshoot?
Yeah, it's a great question, Craig. I think Thursday nights can be very goofy. And when you're trying to figure out a trend that has developed over years and years and years, it doesn't necessarily work with Thursday Night Football. How certain teams handle the quick turnaround, what happened the week before? Was it a physical game? Were you, disappointed at the end, and now you don't have as much time to really soak it in and turn the page, so you're turning the page before you've actually dealt with it or processed it. There's so many factors that come into play. I think about the game last year. I don't know how much this has been brought up or how much you've thought about it.
Ian, we've tried to flush that game from our memories here, as everyone else on planet Earth should, because, God, that was awful.
Washington at Chicago was among the worst Thursday night games that I've called in my career. I remember vividly in the middle of the game thinking, this is the bottom. It's not going to get worse than this. And obviously, Washington got on a little bit of a roll and started to find some wins, and hopefully they were trying to plant some seeds for this year, which you can see signs of. Chicago, it hasn't gone well since then. It's not as if things have changed a whole lot. So I think every game is really its own entity, and I hate to try to generalize what Thursdays are like and how one team is going to benefit over the other. This is a game. If you're Washington, you're looking at your schedule. You're saying, hey, we don't want to be the ones. We don't want to be the ones that end this losing streak for Chicago. And there are legitimate concerns on the Bears side. If they lose another game, there could be wholesale changes with that team on the coaching staff. It feels like one of those kinds of games.
Yeah, it is a very interesting game for both sides from kind of the narrative of their season, where they go from here. And to your point about how unique it is, like, Chicago's kind of a funky team to prepare for. They might be a little bit harder on a Thursday night. When you look at this Bears team and try to squint your way through the chaos of everything going on around them, like, from a football perspective, what do you see as the challenges that Washington faces with them?
Yeah, Fields doesn't do it in a typical way, and he gave them problems last year. They obviously turned the ball over, and they made mistakes. They shot themselves in the foot at times. And look, if you're a fantasy football person, you play Justin Fields in your league, and he's on your team, you're thrilled. The guy has a chance to put up huge point production from a fantasy standpoint. but it has not translated into wins. It doesn't seem as if things are going well behind the scenes in that locker room, whatever's happening with Chase Claypool, and it's just unsettled right now. What I see is a team that has ability. There are guys at the skill position that can play, and they've got a little bit of pop. We saw it at times in this Denver game last week. They led the game 28-7. They couldn't finish, and that seems to be a recurring theme for them, trying to figure out a way to win games, to generate wins. Defensively, they're banged up. Their secondary is ravaged by injuries, and they have not gotten a pass rush going at all. They're not generating any consistent pressure on the quarterback. So if you're just looking at it face value, you check a lot of boxes for Washington. And if they can just be themselves, don't go outside of who they are, I think they're good enough offensively to put points on the board and to win a game like this at home.
Ian Eagle, play-by-play voice of Westwood One's coverage of Thursday Night Football, of course, the NFL on CBS as well. With us here on the Hoffman Show, as you well know, Ian, so much of this season for Washington is about Sam Howell, figuring out if he is the guy. What does it mean if he is the guy? Like, to what level is he the guy? What have you seen from what you've watched of Howell so far this season?
Yeah, I've seen a guy that has all the tools. I've seen a guy who is clearly a gamer. I think he's a good decision maker. I think that's going to improve as this season goes on. Obviously, protection issues, that's been a problem. Absorbing sacks, your body at some point can't take it game in, game out. The numbers are now getting into the historic level of sacks when you're talking about David Carr numbers from his first 4 games in a season twice, and now Howell is in that same neighborhood. But there's a command there. And that's what you look for at that position more than anything else. And belief. Do guys around him believe that he's the guy? So I take what Ron Rivera said at face value. I think Ron is a very direct and honest and forthright person when he said prior to the season, basically, hey, I screwed up. You should have played last year. And that's on me. I didn't see it or I didn't recognize it. And that takes a big man to actually say it publicly. But Sam looks like he belongs in this league. At what level is that? We don't know yet. But the 4-game sampling for this year, I've walked away impressed.
Ian Eagle with us here on the Hoffman Show. You called so many KC games over the last couple of years. You've had many chances to talk with Eric Bieniemy in production meetings.
Yep.
In the role with CBS. When you would leave those meetings, did you often come back like the next year going, how are you still here as an offensive coordinator? And what have you made of what he's done in Washington so far?
Yeah, you know what's interesting? Every crew does it differently, Craig. My crew, this is going back with Dan Fouts and now with Charles, we made a decision years ago. This was just based on my experience in it. We have the analysts talk separately to the coordinators, and a part of that was what I sensed, and this is not a specific coordinator, but various coordinators, offensive, defensive coordinators, in a production meeting might not necessarily give you the stuff you needed with people in the room that they didn't know and they had no background with. And I just found, going back when I was working with Dan, it was a better setup if he grabbed them separately and got what he needed and then shared with us what we might need for the broadcast. So we've carried that over with Charles. It's been very effective. I did meet with Eric years ago, maybe early in his Kansas City tenure, and great energy and guy that's really passionate about football. The fact that he's doing this now in Washington, I think, means a great deal, that he's calling the plays. He's got his finger on the pulse. He's doing it with an inexperienced quarterback. And I do think it goes a long way. Should it? Probably not. The results should speak for themselves, and the people that have supported him and backed him should speak for itself. But, Craig, you and I both know, having been around this league for a long time, we don't quite exactly fully understand what happens in these head coach interviews and why one owner, one GM may feel a certain way or why one candidate gets a whole lot of publicity. There are factors that come into play, but it seems pretty obvious that Eric Bieniemy has put himself in a position to take the next step in his career.
No doubt, and another good performance Thursday night will go a long way towards that. All right, last thing for Ian Eagle. We started on a bit of a goofy note. I would like to end on a goofy but also serious note. A very serious journalistic question here, Ian. It's about your son and one of his good friends. So your son, Noah Eagle, for those that have never put that together, now with NBC Sports, and is called the Nickelodeon game for the NFL the last couple of years. So Noah's done that. And then his former roommate, Drew Carter, did the Toy Story game for ESPN over the weekend. And I would just like to know what was in the water at their house on the campus of Syracuse University. And am I at risk, as someone who stayed there once, of ultimately becoming involved in a cartoon broadcast? I feel like you're the person I need to ask this question to.
Yeah, I believe it was lead. I think it was lead. I don't think they ever officially had it tested, but that's my sense. I turned the faucet on once. It wasn't pretty.
Yeah. I mean, Anthony could probably speak to this, actually, as well, as another fellow Syracuse alumnus. Anthony, did you live on any of those houses off of, Euclid?
Yes.
And
No. Actually, I did not. I did not live off Euclid.
Okay, but, in that general area?
I lived on South Campus.
Oh, okay. So you were probably safe. The closest thing that you have to dealing with a cartoon and a broadcast is me every day.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Ian, did you ever drink any water there? Are you at risk of this?
No, I'm good. But I will say this, in all seriousness, when my wife and I dropped Noah off for that year, we had not obviously seen the house. We knew nothing. This was chosen by somebody else within the group. And we drop him off. We help him bring his stuff inside. We were now going to go help our daughter, who was just starting her freshman year at Syracuse. So we leave, and my wife turned to me and said, "He's not going to live there, is he?"
Man.
I said, "Yeah. No, he's going to actually live there." Yeah.
Yeah, he did. And I stayed there. I mean, I obviously had not seen the house when I would have just gotten the hotel.
That was a huge mistake by you.
Yeah. How about it, though? Him and Drew together, and Tyler Aki, their third roommate, is working at ESPN. What a house.
Yeah. It's been great to follow these guys. It's been this whole other avenue for me to live vicariously and see all these young people doing well in business, and they're all really good people, really good at their jobs. So it's been very cool. The Syracuse Mafia grows, as we know, every year.
It does. Ian Eagle will be on the call. Hopefully, I think I'm gonna make a game time decision tomorrow. We're gonna see how bad the Beltway is when I finish up the pregame and see whether it's worth driving to FedEx or the traffic is telling me to just go home. So hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow, my friend. Drive down safe, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, make a wise choice on this one. Unlike staying in the apartment, if it's not working, then don't push it. We could FaceTime. It's not a problem.
Yeah, no, the Beltway. I mean, you're a great friend. I know. I would love to see you in person, but you've dealt with Beltway traffic. We don't need to do all that.
Anthony, are you playing Karma? What are you playing on the way out here?
You know what I'm gonna play on the way out? I'm gonna play Your Call when Travis Kelce scored.
Oh, there you go.
Low snap. Mahomes moving pocket. Mahomes floats it up. Caught. Touchdown, Travis Kelce. Kelce finds a blank space for the score.
You crushed that.
I heard I'm getting an invite to the wedding, but without a +1. So I've got to work on that.
Yeah, well, more Chiefs games in the future. See what you can do. All right, you have work to do. Thank you. Goodbye. Ian Eagle, everybody, with us here on the Hoffman Show. What a delight. That's a true story, too, by the way. I did really stay on Noah and Drew's couch. I was still pretty recently out of school and had no money. So when I went back to campus, I was like, who do I know? And Ian had introduced me to Noah. And so I stayed with Noah and Drew. And then they both called cartoon football games.
Craig, that is not, so crazy because I think everybody sometimes just needs a crust in the corner when you're fresh out of college.
Yeah.
Fresh out of college. I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Was the couch comfy at least?
I don't think it was.
Oh. I mean, at least you got to lay your head.
Nothing in that house was really that great, except for the people in it. But, sometimes that's what you need in life.
Yes.
All right. A look at what's trending, and then this, that, the other thing. And then have we heard from our potential guest at 5 o'clock yet, Anthony?
Let me check real quick. We have not.
Okay, so we might.
I'm going to send him a question mark.
Okay, we might be having a live guest at 5. If not, we'll get Take Command at 5, and we'll probably push that very special live guest a little later in the show. Never read the comments coming at 5:30, so we're loaded no matter what happens. In what order things happen here on The Hoffman Show.
Hey, this is DA, and you're listening to The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.